It's a lavish wedding reception in late 19th century Manila. The colonial elite are gathered around a magnificent, jeweled lamp glowing at the center of the table. That centerpiece is actually a meticulously designed bomb. Hidden inside its ornate casing is a reservoir of nitroglycerin, rigged to detonate and wipe out the Captain General and the entire colonial leadership in a single flash. This event marks the end of Simov's long game, posing a question that haunts the entire narrative: how a man who once fought for reform came to engineer such indiscriminate killing. To understand Simone, we have to look back at Jose Rizal's previous novel, Noli Me Tangere. That story followed a young, idealistic reformer named Juan Crisostomo Ibarra, who believed his country could be improved through peaceful education and legal change. But the real world offered Rizal no peaceful solutions. He watched the colonial state execute 3 innocent priests, the Gomburza, and persecute his family. The idealistic Ibarra disappears from the narrative. In his place emerges Simone, a wealthy, cynical jeweler who hides behind dark glasses and returns to Manila to dismantle the system from the inside. Rizal uses this sequel, El Filibusterismo, to explore a difficult premise: that when peaceful reform is met with state violence, the only remaining option is to destroy the foundation of the state itself. Simone doesn't start his rebellion in the streets. He starts it in the palace, positioning himself as the Captain General's most trusted advisor. This access allows him to manipulate the very highest levels of the colonial government. His strategy relies on a political concept we now call accelerationism. Instead of trying to curb the state's abuses, Simone actively encourages them, pushing the colonial leaders toward their most flagrant acts of greed. The logic is that by making colonial oppression completely unbearable, the masses are stripped of any psychological alternative. They are forced into a position where violence becomes the only means of survival. Simone takes the state's own paranoia, their fear of the subversive filibustero, and turns it into a self-fulfilling prophecy, carefully orchestrating a total systemic collapse. While Simone plots in the shadows, a group of university students attempts to play by the rules. Led by a young medical student named Basilio, they petition the government to establish an independent Spanish-language academy. Simone mocks their efforts. He argues that trying to assimilate into Spanish culture is a mistake, warning Basilio that adopting the oppressor's language will only turn them into copies of the men destroying their country. The colonial authorities quickly validate Simone's cynicism. They reject the students' academy, while corrupt friars simultaneously seize ancestral farmlands with absolute impunity. Basilio's personal life is then systematically dismantled by the state. He is wrongfully thrown in prison, and while he is locked away, his fiancée, Julie, dies trying to secure his release. Stripped of his freedom and his future, Basilio breaks. He abandons his peaceful ideals and accepts Simone's offer to participate in the violent uprising. By closing off every legal path for change, the government effectively does Simone's work for him, forcing the country's most brilliant minds to find their voice in violence. Which brings us back to the wedding feast. The fuse inside the lamp is burning down, and a citywide massacre is only seconds away. But Simone's cold political logic fails to account for human emotion. Another student, a poet named Izagani, discovers the plot and realizes his former lover, Polita, is trapped inside the targeted building. Acting on impulse, Izagani rushes in, grabs the explosive lamp, and hurls it straight into the Pasig River. The fuse is extinguished, and the revolution stops before it can begin. Rizal leaves us with a difficult paradox. While human connection and personal love destroy the revolution's tactical success, they also prevent the total dehumanization required to pull the trigger. His plot exposed and his body wounded, Simone flees the city. He seeks refuge in the remote home of a native priest, Father Florentino. As he lies sighing from a self-enjuicipoisoning, Simone asks the priest a final question. If their cause was just and the colonial system was truly evil, why was the revolution allowed to fail? Father Florentino offers a harsh truth. He tells the dying man that true liberty cannot be achieved using the same tools of greed, bribery, and blood that the oppressors use. The priest warns that a revolution born entirely out of hate is doomed to repeat the cycle. Once the old tyrants are eliminated, the victorious rebels often take their place as new oppressors. The novel ends on a warning rather than a triumph. For Rizal, a change in government is meaningless if the people themselves haven't outgrown the vices of their masters. True independence has to be earned through a moral shift, not just a more powerful explosive. Following Simone's death, Father Florentino carries the jeweler's chest of wealth to a cliff and hurls it into the ocean, rejecting the corruption it represents. When El Filibusterismo reached the Philippines in 1891, the public response mirrored the tension within its pages. The fictional failure of Simone's plot only heightened the real-world urgency for change. Just 5 years later, the Philippine Revolution of 1896 erupted. The rebels who took up arms built their movement directly on the ideological foundations Rizal explored in his writing. By documenting the path of the subversive, Rizal issued a final notice to Spain. The colonial state's refusal to evolve ensured that its end would be defined by the very violence it sought to suppress.